welcome Croquet Nation to another interview on Croquet Network YouTube channel. Today I have with me USCA President Damon Bidencope, and we're going to do a little bit of talking about U.S. croquet today. But let's start off with Damon. You've been in the sport for a long time. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in the sport?
Sure. I started playing in the 70s in Australia when I first went to Sydney University, and we had a croquet program and active interest in the sport at St Paul's College at Sydney University. And so in the mid-late 70s, when I began to be a student there, I took up playing croquet and fell in love with it and continued my passion since then. I was fortunate to experience watching the McRobertson Shield in 1982 being played in Sydney, and that would be my first connection with US croquet, because I met and had lunch with and spoke with Jack Osborne, Gene Errington and Libby Newell at that time in 1982. And so from that time I've been familiar with sport, the croquet game here in the United States.
Who would have been some of the players who would have played in that event at that time?
At that time, the Great Britain team would have been David Openshaw, Martin Murray, Andrew Hope, William Pritchard, side-style player, very elegant player. Keith Wiley was another quite famous participant. In the Australian team would have been Neil Spooner, Mark Prater, Barry Chambers. Amongst the New Zealanders would have been the Bob Jacksons, Joe Hogans of the world and things. It was a very strong and memorable time. A lot of fabulous players. I think Steve Muller was also playing with the Great Britain team, and Stephen's still active in the game today.
Sure. So the U.S. People were there to observing, building the case to start playing internationally?
Well, yes. At that stage, the U.S. had some challenges, largely visits with Nigel Aspinall and some of the British players that came back and forward to help develop some of the skill sets. They were some of the early challenges that helped the US develop their talents. And Jack Osborne and Libby Newell and Gene Errington had made the trip to Australia because that was where the focus of all these countries getting together. Jack at that time had brought along one of the small backyard balls that were played around the country and was talking about manufacturing a better ball and different equipment. Jack went on to be an agent for the John Jacques Company in the US at promoting the use of better standards of equipment. Obviously that's changed light years now from what it was then. And Jack also had bought some of the publications that they originally published, the old gazettes and the like, which were largely more like a newspaper or shiny sheet kind of prints. So yeah, we were sort of aware and what he was hoping to do with the game here in the US. It was very interesting.
Okay, so you're a renowned player. You're the only player to ever three-peat for the USAC Singles National Championship. That happened in '88 through 1990. Can you tell us a little bit about your playing career?
Sure, and I'd have to add, if it wasn't for a failed penultimate hoop against David Openshaw, it probably would have been 4. But single shots, everyone's shot makes someone happy, I guess. Yes, I started playing a lot here in the US in the the mid-late 80s and the early 90s. I played a good bit, both American rules I enjoyed tremendously, association rules I had a strong background in, was successful in both events at winning national titles. Enjoyed greatly playing doubles with Archie Birchfield in the American game. Archie particularly because he came from the Kentucky version of croquet, which relies very much on forced plays and rotation and sequence. So he was a true master, one of the few players I've played with that didn't need to look at a deadness board in order to keep track of who was dead on whom and often I'd talk to him and I'd say, Archie, I'll go get those balls for you here. And he said, Damon, you don't need to do that. In about 3 minutes, I'll have them over in this corner, and then you can get them there. And he could just walk his opponents around the court beautifully, based on which way he would point the balls and understanding the rotation of play. So I enjoyed playing those games in the early days. I was involved with some of the largest tournaments that have been held in terms of prize money and budgets to date. In the 80s, we had some prize money tournaments with Domaine Mom as a sponsor and some other sponsors. There were about $30,000 prize monies and event budgets of $250,000, which are significant even by today's standards.
Yeah, that is. It's funny you say it's such a croquet player thing. Well, you won 3 in a row. Well, I would have won 4 if I hadn't missed that.
Well, I played... For a while, I played competitively, and that's literally only for a handful of years or two. And then with career and jobs and other occupations, I wasn't in a position to compete at the same level. So while I kept my interest in the game, I really didn't engage in playing the top-level tournaments, or any tournaments, actually, until I came out of retirement in '94 to play the Solomon Trophy matches. And then later played a little bit more when we started the Selection 8s, which I think is an event that's helped us gain prominence in the AC world, particularly. That was an event that we wanted to have as a chance for the top AC players to get together. There was a movement there to try to top players to increase their standing internationally, and so that event served that purpose very well.
So what brought you from Australia to the United States?
Well, curiously enough, I had first taken a trip here to the United States with my uncle to travel and so that he could see some of the sights in America. And during that time, I had met with Tom Lufkin, or Tom O'Donnell, that lived in Santa Rosa, who was one of the original people that played with Sam Goldwyn and the movie crowd in LA. And, and following a car accident that he had early, for health reasons, he and his wife Janie had moved to Santa Rosa. And Janie's brother, Fred Fisher, had the vineyards between Santa Rosa and Napa Valley. And Tom and Janie built their home on land beside that, and they had a croquet court there. And at the same time, or around that same time, Bryce Jones happened upon croquet with Sonoma-Cutrer to be of interest. And with Bryce developing croquet there, Bill Harland, that had recently bought the Meadowood club in the Napa Valley, decided that he wanted to install croquet there at that facility, at that beautiful club. And Bill asked me and said, well, Damon, if you'll come and work for me and make these courts live, then I'll build the courts. He was quite wise, I think, not necessarily in selecting me to do it, but knowing that when you put in courts, it requires someone to make them live and breathe. You can't just... we go past public parks all the time and there are tennis courts laid out there with no activity on them. Well, if you have no one to make your programs active, then they just sit there and they're poorly used amenities. Bill had the foresight, knowing that he needed to have someone that could promote the sport and develop interest in it, and so was quite successful with it. I think those parallels are still true today, where a lot of our active and larger clubs are seeing the benefit of having a full-time teaching director or someone there to stimulate the program, and those programs are head and shoulders above and more active than those that just simply say we have croquet courts. Mm-hmm. And I think that it was true 40 years ago, it's true today. If you get someone that's very successful with being able to promote the game and the enjoyment and the fun of the game on all levels, you end up with a much more healthy program.
Yeah, you kind of touch on a pet peeve there for me, but we can get into later. But that concept of how many tennis courts sit empty, right. And how challenging it is in the U.S. to get croquet courts built. Not that it's hard, but just to get it done from a public standpoint. Anyway, I'm off track. Let's talk about your leadership. You've been the USCA president. We're into the fourth year now.
We we're in the fourth year. I had originally I'd served on the United States Management Committee back in the 90s.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I served with Mike Gibbons and Bill Byrne and that group at that time. In fact, that was the time of transition when we incorporated the United States Croquet Association as a not-for-profit corporation in Florida. And before that, it had been a for-profit corporation in New York. And that was the time when we moved the offices down, and there was a transition from PGA to Wellington when the offices moved from PGA National over to Wellington for where we were hosting most of our events and where our key functions happened. Then following on from that, I joined back with the manager. I kept an interest in what was going on, and then joined probably 8 years ago, I guess it was, and served as first vice president there for 4 years before following Sarah Lowe into the presidency.
Right. So are we at the end of a cycle, or are you continuing on?
No, we're at the end of the cycle. We've just recently had the annual general meeting where 3 of our regional vice presidents are elected, and those regional vice presidents, the 3 that are newly elected and the 3 that are in place because they're on offset 2-year terms, those regional vice presidents and the 5 executive members will elect a new executive group in the following meeting at the management committee, which will come up on the 4th Tuesday of this next coming month.
Okay. So we're right just ahead of a transition then.
Right. Yes, we are, and then I'll stay on as immediate past president for a 1-year period, and that's a non-voting capacity on the management committee, but it helps to give continuity and some background knowledge as things continue to move forward.
So USCA president is a 5-year job then?
Yes, it can be shorter. I mean, the term is 2 years, and then there's a re-election of officers. It's been the pattern where people will serve for 2 terms, and I guess it's possible to serve for more, but I think that's probably a healthy period of time for someone to contribute.
Okay. So it's premature to speculate on the next president, so I won't force you to do that. So, what have been the biggest challenges leading the organization? What's been your approach to that? And speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, there have been some significant challenges, and with the association, some of the things that I'm most proud of we've been able to achieve would be our talent development program, which hatched with a concerted effort led by Michael Albert, who's the first vice president currently with the association, Jeff Sue, David Malouf, and myself. We were able to attract donations from several interested members from which to fund the program, so we were able to bring this program forward without using general revenue funds. And what we did was gather people that we recognized that had talent in the game and a long future runway in the game, so they both had the ability to improve and also the ability to be with the game for a long time. And we gathered these people in clusters together around the country at different times in the year. And if we think about some of the early pupils, our first gathering was at Mountain Lake in Florida, and one of the participants was Blake Fields, who's our recent world champion. Tom Balding was there, Paul Newbecker was there. A whole bunch of our players that really have come into strong prominence in the game were there. And the other thing that this has done for the United States on a international basis is our players now compete very much as a team of people, as opposed to being strong individual players that are on a team. They now really compete as a team, And that's a huge difference for people that have played in many team sports. Our recent success with the 7-0 victory in the final of the GC World Teams event, and the support given by all our players to every other player within our team is just tremendous. And I think that's been one of our best achievements that we've made. One of the behind-the-scenes or lesser recognized achievements also is our financial security of the association that we've been able to achieve. And that's through the diligent hard work from David Isaacs, who served as treasurer prior to Doug Moore, who's continued that good work now coming into it. We've got a lot better with our fiscal responsibilities. I think sometimes that's hard for a volunteer organization to have certain actually operate like a business, go through the budgeting process, have plans, have pro formas, and follow through, and then have measurable results. So we're very focused about that. The United States Association has about 17 to 18 tournaments that we are financially responsible for, that we stage every year. And so at that sort of a clip, that's one every 3 or 4 weeks that happens, where we're staging a tournament somewhere in the country. Right. And they're spread far and wide. I mean, over this last year, we've had tournaments in Chesapeake, Virginia. We've got tournaments coming up in Sarasota with the Under-21 World Teams event. Later in the last half of October of this year, we've got the AC World Championships coming up. All 3 of those World Championships are layered on top of the 17 or 18 other tournaments we have. So just the tournament alone is a very busy calendaring sort of event, and that's on top of our normal member services, the publications that you're only too familiar with, many other things that go into servicing the membership. So I've been happy that we've been able to do that. I'm also very pleased that with the staging of these 3 tournaments, it allows the United States to really be a very full member of the international croquet community. And for those that are going to be fortunate enough to travel, that may wish to play croquet in other countries, or wish to be hosts when other foreign players come to the United States to play in events and things, there's a great deal of richness to our croquet experience that can be gained by being an integral member of that world community. So I think we've really made strides in that direction as well.
Yeah, I think it's kind of probably not fully understood, the full scope of what the USCA has on its plate. What's going on. I think if I know right, in the time that I've kind of been watching, I think the overall budget has doubled. So then the amount of work and the amount of initiatives going on takes a huge volunteer effort. The magazine alone that I work on is so many people contribute to that. So yeah, it's a huge ship to steer. I guess I would say, yeah. I mean, you're in the midst. You've got one world championship down. The GC World's back in October. Few weeks here, Sarasota County Croquet Club. You'll have the under-21s, and then coming around to AC Worlds in October in West Palm Beach. I guess, do you want to speak a little bit to that about the challenge and the approach and the success? So far.
I mean, sure. The events that have been played, we. A huge amount of planning. I can't overstate the amount of effort that went into the volunteers and the support and the referees and the officials that really camped out in Virginia for 3 weeks to make these events happen that have been happening. The teamwork with Sarasota has been tremendous. The event that's coming up in Sarasota started with a phone call 4 or 5 years ago, where Sarasota was really saying with the USCA, well, how do we achieve our goals going forward? We'd like to hold international events. We'd also like to get prominence. That's very helpful for their relationship with Sarasota County. because it brings people into the county. It's a great generator of interest, and it also provides the Sarasota Club a wonderful outlet for people to enjoy outdoor activity. And so from that phone call with Hans Peterson 4 or 5 years ago, having the World Championship for the under-21s there is really the hatching and one of the end goals of the USCA being very active with one of the member clubs at helping them with their goals, the USCA with our goals, and trying to have a public sort of partnership that works well for the sport.
Right.
And then the other, holding the event in Virginia was also very focused initiative, because we wanted people to understand the wide variation, the geographic diversity of where croquet is played in the United States. It's not just played in our country clubs or at our fine clubs. We've got public facilities that are always developing, and we hope to develop many, many more, because the game can be enjoyed wherever you've got a little bit of patch of flat grass, and I think we need to embrace that. So having these tournaments at different venues around the country also aids that understanding for the rest of the world in what croquet is in the United States, and what for some of our members here in the United States, how geographically diverse it is.
It's interesting you mentioned the impact on the community where the events like that are held. I don't know what you thought, but I thought it was fascinating to me the GC World Teams, St. Leonard's, Tasmania, how involved that community kind of seemed to be and supported and got some exposure out of it. That was kind of cool.
Oh, it's absolutely fabulous. And what people, sometimes people don't understand the benefits of an active croquet program. That in this instance, they get to see the world's top players come and play, and that's great. But on a daily basis, a club offers a physical exercise for people that are involved in the sport. It offers intellectual exercise because people are always making decisions. If blue went there, what do I do with red or black, and so forth? The decision making is always changing in the game. So there's intellectual activity that goes on with playing it. And then there's usually within the club community, there's a great deal of emotional support for people. Hi Joe, hi Betty, how are things going, what's going on? And there's a certain amount of social interaction, because our game, I think one of the real qualities is quite a social game. And so what John Goldener with the Sarasota Club has often said, it's as easy as pie. It's the physical, the intellectual, and the emotional, that where we provide so much of a service to a lot of our communities where our clubs are within. That's a fabulous thing about the game. I'd like to see that message sold more, because a lot of people don't fully appreciate the benefits.
I
Darling,
agree with that.
Let me add one thing before you change. I was in my doctor's office just recently, and I was showing him, he was interested in the exercise I was getting. So I pulled out my step count on my telephone, and during the GC Open that I went to play in Florida, I had 19,000 steps a day. And people don't even understand the amount of exercise you get playing croquet in a day.
Yeah, that's it. That's a fantastic point. I think that's undersold. That's kind of our job, right? And marketing the sport. But yeah, it's frustrating for me sometimes to talk when we're trying to push for public venues and stuff. I'm like, it's the full boat. It is what you said. It's mental, physical. It's outdoors. It's so healthy for people, and to engage the audience or the community that you're in. Above 60, 65, it's so important to our culture. And it's very frustrating when city officials or public officials don't really grasp what they're missing out on by not, putting a small investment into building some courts in any community. So, yeah, I think it's a very important point. Okay, I know you have travels today, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next section, which is the lightning round, and the rules here. There's nothing to win, but
is this where I get struck with lightning?
I hope not. Yeah, you're indoors. We should be good. You can decline, but I will go ahead and get started. So I think we're ready. What is
Okay.
your age?
I'm 65.
Okay. And your home city is?
My wife and I, in November last year, just moved to Isle of Palms in the Charleston area, South Carolina, and I maintain a business and another home in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay. Your home club?
TGK in South Carolina.
Okay.
That's a municipal club that we started about 20-something years ago, and we have over 100 people just enjoying the social aspects of croquet.
Okay. What is your grip?
I play left-hand Irish grip mostly.
Okay. Mostly. Are you Matthew Essick?
Um, no, I wish I was still in my 20s, but no, I'm not. I'm toying with the idea of going back. I was originally a left-hand orthodox grip player,
Oh,
and I'm going back to the idea of starting to play with a taller mallet, a higher grip, and possibly adopting the orthodox grip again. And that's because of some of the fundamentals that have changed in the way mallets are made, that I may choose to go that direction.
okay. What kind of mallet do you play with, and what head size and shaft size?
I play with an old Bob Jackson mallet that's probably 30 or 40 years old now. The head length is about 8 inches long. It weighs about 3.2 pounds. Its balance point is well down the shaft, probably a seventh or an eighth of the way along the shaft point. It has an aluminum shaft, and it's around 2¼ inches approximately square, roughly like that.
Okay.
And I
And
bought the mallet secondhand from a rental rack in Oregon, playing at the resort tournament out there. When the mallet that I had been playing with for many years, I couldn't get my rushes across the court with the dew that was on the grass. So I wanted a mallet with a lower point a balance point of weight, and they happened to have that there and were willing to sell it for the huge sum of $80.
wow. How many years have you been playing?
Started playing in 77, 78, so that's mid-40s years.
48.
Yeah, it's
48.
getting up.
What's your favorite croquet venue?
Oh my gosh. Croquet favorite venue. So, that's
Well,
a
I'll
that's a very difficult question. There are some lawns that I've played on that are literally beyond belief of how perfect they could be. And each of them are unique and fun in their place. It's really very difficult to say.
okay. Do you have a favorite tournament? Or yeah.
I like the selection eights. I like the American rules 6-wicket nationals, because there's a certain cut and thrust in single life knockouts and severity with the American game that is not there in most of the other games. The tactical can be tactical suicide or tactical brilliance, depending on which way it ends up.
Are there any particular? We kind of talked about it earlier, but any particular highlights or tournament wins that stand out for you? Tournament wins.
Oh, well, there are probably two instances. One instance at PGA National, I think I was playing maybe Reed Fleming in the final for the national title, and despite all my training and what I thought I was in tune, I prepared to hit a shot and then scuffed the ground so badly in the playing of the shot, and the ball still rolled true and hit the other ball at some 20, 30 yards. And I'd have to think that was an incredible stroke of good luck, that to play such a poor stroke and then still succeed with hitting the ball, I think would be one of my moments I've never forgotten. The other moments are probably winning the national doubles in Rhode Island with Archie Birchfield, which was just such a delight. He was just a fabulous person to be around, to play with and things, and did a great deal for the game here in the United States over the years. So I think that's some of my fondest moments. And for many years, and you asked me before what my favorite tournament year was, but a few of us would gather at Stamping Ground, Kentucky, at Archie's farm, and amongst the handful of us, I remember one year Robert Fulford was there, Phil Cordingley, myself. You know, we had a world-class field at this small little town in Kentucky. Great croquet, great camaraderie, huge friendships. It was just spectacularly good fun, and for many years I played that above going to play the national tournament. I could afford to play one a year with my timing, and that's the one I chose to play, largely because of the cast of characters that would assemble and how much we enjoyed being in each other's company.
Okay. Do you play other sports?
I do. I played a lot of cricket and played a lot of rugby, and I snow ski a good bit. I like to snow ski as much as I like to play croquet, which is a hard barrier to get up to. But yeah, I've enjoyed a lot of different sports. Very much enjoy the idea of being involved in things.
Yeah. Are there any favorite pop culture favorites that you have, like TV shows, streaming series, movies, books, or music that you'd like to share with us?
Well, my wife accuses me of watching Naked and Afraid a lot, and she threatens to drop me out of the car at some remote point and say, well, go on, off you go. See how well you do at that. No, I like... I do watch a good bit of BBC News and everything. I like to see how the world is what other things are happening around the world, because we're more and more in a global environment and we need to be very much aware of what's happening. I am fascinated with whatever, and again that shows my addiction to croquet, but whatever other croquet news is happening in other parts of the world, I'm always very fascinated what's working well. For instance, Spain is doing such a magnificent job with promoting the sport. I think it's spectacular, and yet I enjoy hearing about all these other little pockets that are popping up in Hong Kong and other places, and it's just wonderful to see.
Okay, this is the last one. What would you like to see happen in the sport over the next 10 years?
I'd like to see the USCA develop their instructional program more, so they can facilitate when clubs are looking to install croquet lawns, that then they have a structure to provide instruction manuals and how to go about doing that. So whether these places that install courts, whether they're going to use someone local and develop the skill set for their teachers at the local facility from there, or look to source teachers through the USCA certifications, I'd like to see that something that we very much develop. And we've started down that route with Carl Maloof and Priscilla Flowers helping with develop some of those materials. It's very much in an embryonic stage, but I'd like to see the USCA become the go-to source for that sort of information and that sort of personnel as well. I think we can provide that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, and I think that would really help the development of the sport. The other thing we've developed that I'd like to see utilized more is the Croquet Now program, because potentially it can give participation statistics, or it can even now. So if the clubs choose to use that program a lot for just local club operations basis, it can provide a handicapping system for people. It comes a record of their games. They can track things on it. But then we can provide to clubs participation reports from that, such that we can tell them not only who has played a lot of games, the type of games they've played, which of the 4 codes they're playing a lot, but you can provide to someone like the membership secretary who has not played. Because if you're worried about membership retention, you're worried about the member that hasn't been to the club. That's really what you want to know. You want to know who's not being active and playing within your group. So anything we can do as a national association that can help our member clubs and our croquet groups be more active, I think that serves us well, and I think it serves them well. So I'd like to see that as an ongoing direction that we take as the National Association.
That does sound like a good tool, and probably underutilized at this point. I think we're here at the end of our time. I really appreciate you taking the time with us today, and hope your travels are safe too.
Dial, thank you. I'm going to play croquet in Houston tomorrow, so I'm very much looking forward to that. So that's where I'm headed, and then this next week I'm be playing in Pinehurst, which is another great venue to play. And we'll be there with the Southeast Regional, so I'm going to enjoy playing in that as well. But thank you for all you do with the sport, and thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll close off there, and I want to encourage everybody to subscribe to the channel. That'll help us do more of these. Thank you.